I'm showing you different examples of APIs and how to test them. In the previous video, I started talking about different test cases, so I'm going to continue on that. So watch the previous videos if you want to get more examples of APIs. We're using this customer's API. So as a backend tester or a software tester, you're going to be responsible for the front end and the backend. And the backend usually is APIs, and this is an example of that. So we're talking about this Create Customer API. By minimum, you have the email and a password. Let's just say that's the minimum requirement. I create an API like that. I send the request. The first thing I check is the status code. I talked about that. Then I look at the body and I see what is the most important part of this. Again, you can consult with the engineer or the product manager or even a project manager sometimes saying, hey, what is the most important part out of this API? If you have the time, of course, you're going to test everything about it. You're going to literally write a test, whether it's manual or automation, for every single field in here. But usually you don't really have time. You can't afford it because there's tons of APIs to test. So you're going to focus on what's the most important part. What is critical? What would cause frustration with the customers? What would cause my company to lose money? So you have to make decisions. Usually that's actually the hard part, making decision and what do you leave off for later, and what do you test right now, right? So you make those decisions. So by looking at this, what I'm doing is just using common sense. The role is extremely important. You want to make sure when a customers get created, it doesn't get created as an admin user. That would be terrible. The username is automatically generated from the email, as you can see. So you're going to validate that. Make sure whatever the email is, without the domain, that is the username. Billing information is empty. Shipping information is empty. That's a test case on its own. Make sure there is no random stuff being added, because that would be bad. The API creates a customer without specifying an address. Somehow there's an address, then that's really bad, right? If that customer comes later on and buys something, that stuff is going to be sent over to somebody else. Like, it's just generally a bad thing. All right, is paying customer false, right? I would imagine that's important because we just created the customer. This is not a paid customer, a paying customer. So make sure that is correct. Avatar URL, maybe not as critical, so I probably won't even do that. If you're doing manual testing, no big deal. You can just look at everything like I'm doing right now. You can scan it. But if you're doing automation testing, you're going to have to write code for each one of those things. And that takes time. So that's when you actually have to make decisions. For manual, I think you would scan everything and just make sure everything looks good. You can just click on the links, make sure they work. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. The next thing you want to do is write negative test cases. So you want to make it fail on purpose. For example, password is required. I can try to make the call without the password and make sure it fails, right? So in the next video, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about negative test cases and see what to look out for when you're testing APIs in a negative way, expecting them to fail. So make sure you give me a follow to learn more about QA, automation, and software testing.